Subscribe, like, and comment if you're ready to step into the shadows, because once these prison doors close, the truth doesn't stay locked forever. The yard that never slept. The body was found just before dawn, sprawled beneath the watchtower's shadow like it had been placed there on purpose. Cold concrete pressed against Marcus Hale's cheek as a guard shouted and boots thundered across the yard. Sirens screamed, slicing through the early morning fog that clung to Blackwater State Penitentiary like a second set of bars. Inmates were ordered flat, hands behind heads. No one spoke. No one breathed too loudly. Marcus kept his eyes open. He'd learned early that survival behind bars depended on noticing everything, who flinched, who stared too long, who pretended not to see. The dead man was Jonah Pike, inmate number 44721, serving 20 years for armed robbery. Pike wasn't supposed to be here. He worked kitchen detail. He didn't gamble. He didn't run with the crew. And yet there he was, throat bruised, knuckles torn, a thin line of blood tracing cracks in the yard. The guards dragged Pike away on a stretcher as if he weighed nothing. A lieutenant barked orders. Cameras swiveled. The prison went silent in that unnatural way Marcus had come to fear, the silence that meant everyone was calculating their next move. Blackwater had a reputation, not for riots or escapes, but for secrets. Deals struck in whispers. Messages passed through laundry bags and library books. Men who walked in with one sentence and walked out with another. If you knew where to look, prison wasn't a place you did time. It was a place where time did you favors. Detective Elena Ward arrived 2 hours later, her badge catching the gray light as she crossed the Sally Port. She'd worked homicides in 3 states and thought she'd seen everything. Blackwater made her pause. The air was heavier here, like the walls themselves were listening. Pike's death didn't fit the usual patterns. No shank, no gang signature, no obvious motive. The medical examiner would later say the bruising suggested a chokehold, clean and practiced. Professional. Someone who knew how to stop a heart without leaving a mess. Warden Thomas Kessler greeted her with a tight smile that never reached his eyes. "We run a clean operation," he said too quickly. "This is an anomaly." Ward didn't answer. She didn't need to. Anomalies were her specialty. She started with the cameras. Blackwater had them everywhere, except where it mattered. The feed covering the southeast corner of the yard cut out for exactly 6 minutes. A power surge, the tech claimed. Routine maintenance, the log said. Ward wrote it down anyway. 6 minutes was an eternity. Her next stop was the infirmary, where Pike's bunkmate sat nursing a split lip. He swore he'd slept through everything. Everyone slept through everything, apparently. Ward noticed his hand shaking when she asked about Pike's job assignments. Kitchen detail meant access. Knives, schedules, people. By noon, the prison was buzzing. Rumors spread faster than lockdown orders. Some said Pike had been a snitch. Others whispered about a debt. Marcus heard them all as he worked the library desk, stamping returns and pretending not to listen. He'd known Pike after a fashion. Quiet guy. Read westerns. Sent money home to a sister in Ohio. What no one knew, what Pike had begged Marcus to keep quiet about, was a letter. 2 weeks earlier, Pike had slipped a folded envelope between the pages of a returned book. No return address. Just 3 words written in block letters. Keep me safe. Inside was a list of names. Inmates. Guards. 1 assistant warden. Next to each name were dates and numbers that meant nothing at first glance. But Marcus had a memory for patterns. He'd seen those numbers before, scratched into cell walls, whispered in showers. Transfers, early releases, privileges earned by men who shouldn't have earned them. A marketplace, hidden in plain sight. Pike had discovered it by accident. A delivery logged twice. A package that disappeared. A favor that turned into leverage. He'd been scathed, and fear made people careless. He'd told Marcus he was thinking of talking. Not to the guards, not to the warden, to someone outside. Marcus had told him to wait. Now Pike was dead. Detective Ward interviewed Marcus that afternoon. He sat across from her in a small room that smelled like disinfectant and old paper. She asked about Pike, about the library, about the letter Marcus never mentioned. She had calm eyes, the kind that made liars trip over themselves. Marcus answered carefully, choosing truth where it couldn't hurt him and silence where it could. Did Pike have enemies? Ward asked. "In here, everyone does," Marcus said. "Some just don't know it yet." Ward studied him. "If you remember anything else," she said, sliding a card across the table. "Anything at all, call." Marcus watched the door close behind her and felt the weight of the envelope like a stone in his chest. That night, lockdown came early. The prison lights dimmed. Footsteps echoed in the corridors. Marcus lay on his bunk staring at the ceiling, counting cracks, listening for the sounds that didn't belong. Somewhere down the tier, someone cried. Somewhere else, someone laughed. A guard stopped outside Marcus's cell. The keys jingled. The lock clicked, but the door didn't open. Instead, a voice whispered through the bars. "You should have stayed out of it." Marcus didn't move. The footsteps retreated. By morning, the library was closed. A sign taped to the door cited staffing shortages. Marcus watched as a cart of books was wheeled away for inventory. His stomach tightened. The envelope was hidden inside a hollow dictionary, a trick as old as prisons themselves. Detective Ward returned to the yard where Pike had died. The fog had lifted, revealing scuff marks near the drain. She crouched, gloved fingers tracing a faint smear of oil. Not blood, machine oil. She followed it to the fence line and found something wedged beneath the chain link, a broken plastic tab, the kind used to seal evidence bags. Someone had been careful. Too careful. Ward requested access to staff schedules and maintenance logs. The warden stalled. Paperwork moved slowly at Blackwater. Meanwhile, a guard named Evan Brooks failed to show up for his shift. His locker was empty. His apartment offsite had been cleared out overnight. By evening, the medical examiner called with an update. Pike had died faster than expected. There were marks on his wrists, faint but unmistakable. Zip ties. He'd been restrained. Ward stood alone in her office, staring at a board where faces and names were pinned in neat rows. Inmates, guards, administrators, lines drawn and erased. A prison within a prison. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number flashed on the screen. "Check the library returns." Before they had gone, Ward grabbed her coat. When she reached the library, it was dark. Shelves stood half empty, books piled on carts like bodies awaiting transport. She moved quickly, scanning spines, until she found the dictionary. Heavy, wrong. She opened it. The envelope slid out. Names, dates, numbers, a map of corruption drawn by a dead man who had been brave for exactly one moment too long. As Ward turned to leave, she heard the door lock behind her, and from the darkness between the shelves, a voice said, "You're not supposed to have that." When the emergency lights flickered on, revealing who was standing there, Detective Ward realized the truth was far closer and far more dangerous than she'd imagined. The currency of silence. Detective Elena Ward didn't reach for her weapon. Not because she wasn't afraid, but because fear had taught her when a gun would only make things worse. The man standing between the library shelves wore a guard's uniform, his name tag catching the emergency light, Lieutenant Daniel Rourke. He was middle management, the kind of officer who'd been at Blackwater long enough to know where the rut lived, but smart enough to never touch it at least. That's what Ward had assumed. Step away from the evidence, Rourke said, his voice calm, almost apologetic. "This doesn't have to get messy." Ward raised her hand slowly, keeping the envelope visible. "You locked me in," she said. "That's already messy." Rourke glanced toward the door, then back at her. "You don't understand how this place works. What Pike found, it's bigger than you, bigger than me." Ward took a step sideways, eyes flicking to the exits, the carts, the blind spots. "Then help me," she said. "Tell me who killed him." Rourke laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Killed? You think that was a point? Pike was a message." The words settled like dust. Before Ward could respond, the light snapped back to full power. The door unlocked with a heavy click. Rourke stepped aside, his face closing like a shutter. "You should leave," he said, "before someone decides you're part of the inventory." Ward walked out without running. She didn't look back until she was safely outside, breathing cold air that tasted like metal. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. "They're watching you now. Trust no one inside the fence." Inside the prison, Marcus Hale felt the walls tightening. The library closure wasn't temporary. It was surgical. Books that had circulated for decades vanished overnight. Men who'd relied on the quiet space of sanity were suddenly restless, pacing tiers like caged animals. Information had always been currency at Blackwater. Now someone was burning the bank. Marcus had hidden the envelope's twin. A carbon copy Pike had insisted on making inside the lining of his mattress. He'd memorized the names, the numbers, the patterns. Transfers timed with disciplinary write-ups that vanished. Early paroles approved against recommendations. Guards reassigned days before inspections. It wasn't just corruption. It was a system. And systems didn't die easily. The first warning came during chow. Marcus felt it before he saw it, the shift in the room, the way conversations dipped. A man slid into the seat across from him, broad-shouldered, tattoos crawling up his neck. Calvin Brick Monroe, unofficial enforcer for a coup that officially didn't exist. "You're smart," Brick said, stabbing at his food. Smart enough to know when to stop digging. Marcus kept eating. "I read books," he said. "That's not a crime." Brick leaned closer. "In hey, curiosity gets you buried." That night, Marcus's cell was tossed. Mattresses ripped. Personal letters shredded. The copy of the envelope was gone. Whoever did it hadn't bothered to be subtle. They wanted him to know. Detective Ward spent the next 48 hours chasing doors that closed in her face. Ward and Kessler cited ongoing internal reviews. Staff attorneys warned her about jurisdiction. Evidence requests stalled. And then Evan Brooks, the missing guard, turned up dead in a motel 2 counties away. His death ruled a suicide. The note was typed. The gun was wiped clean. Ward didn't buy it. She drove to Brooks's apartment herself, ignoring the taped door and the landlord protests. Inside, she found what the cleanup crew had missed, a storage receipt tucked behind the breaker panel. A unit on the edge of town. The storage unit smelled like oil and dust. Inside were boxes labeled with dates, stacks of burner phones, and a ledger written in the same block letters as Pike's envelope. Names matched, numbers aligned, payments logged in favors. Not cash. Protection. Transfers. Silence. At the bottom of the ledger was a single phrase, underlined twice. The trust. Ward's pulse quickened. This wasn't a handful of bad actors. It was an organization operating inside the prison, using inmates as assets and guards as facilitators. And someone high enough to shield it. Back at Blackwater, the retaliation escalated. An inmate who'd been friendly with Pike was found unconscious in the showers. A guard who'd asked too many questions was reassigned to night duty in a wing known for accidents. Fear became policy. Marcus received his second warning in the form of a visit. Lieutenant Rourke stood at his cell during count, eyes shadowed. "You had something," Rourke said quietly. "Something you shouldn't." "Had," Marcus replied. Past tense. Rourke's jaw tightened. "If you give it to Ward, you won't live to testify." Marcus met his gaze. "You think I don't know that?" Rourke hesitated, just for a second. "There's a transport schedule tomorrow," he said. "Medical run. Windows of opportunity are small." Then he walked away. Marcus lay awake, weighing risks like a gambler with nothing left to lose. Pike's face haunted him. The sister in Ohio. The letter that had started it all. He thought about the ledger Ward might already have, about how pieces meant nothing unless they fit together. The transport van smelled like disinfectant and sweat. Marcus sat cuffed between 2 other inmates, eyes down. As the gates rolled open, he felt the van slow unexpectedly. A jolt. Shouting. The driver swore. The door cracked. A hand slipped something into Marcus's palm. A folded note, damp with rain. Storage Unit 312. Trust the ledger. The van lurched forward again. By the time Marcus looked up, the guard was gone. Detective Ward returned to her office to find it ransacked. Drawers pulled. Files missing. The ledger gone. Panic flayed, then hardened into resolve. They wanted her blind. She wasn't. Her phone rang. A blocked number. She answered. "I can help you," a man's voice said, low and urgent. "But it has to be now." "Who is this?" Ward asked. "Someone who's already dead if this goes wrong," he replied. "They are moving the trust. Tonight." Ward grabbed her keys. Back at Blackwater, alarms blared. A fight broke out in C Block. Bodies colliding, guards rushing in. In the chaos, Marcus slipped away from the transport detail, heart pounding. He didn't know if Rourke had meant to help him or bury him. He only knew time was running out. As Ward sped toward the storage facility, her phone buzzed with a final message from the unknown number. If you open the wrong door, you won't be able to close it again. She parked in the shadows, weapon drawn, and rolled up the unit's door. Inside, illuminated by a single hanging bulb, were uniforms neatly folded, stacks of files, and a wall covered in photographed faces of inmates, guards, judges, politicians. Lines drawn between them like a spider's web. At the center was a recent photo of Marcus Hale, and beneath it, a new addition that made Ward's blood run cold. Her own face, circled in red. The man who never left. Detective Elena Ward stood frozen, the hum of the single bulb sounding louder than her own breathing. Her photograph was recent, taken from a distance, outside the prison gates. The red circle around her face was thick, deliberate, not a warning, a confirmation. She backed out of the storage unit slowly, lowering the door inch by inch until the metal kissed the concrete. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. Another blocked number. "They know you've seen it," the voice said when she answered. "There's no saved version of this anymore." "Who are you?" Ward demanded. A pause. "I was a guard," the voice replied, "before I became a liability." The line went dead. Ward didn't go back to the station. She drove instead to a quiet diner on the edge of town, the kind with cracked vinyl booze and coffee that tasted burned no matter how fresh it was. She sat where she could see the door, spreading photos and notes across the table like a map of a war she hadn't known she joined. The trust wasn't just operating inside Blackwater. It extended outward parole boards, private contractors, even elected officials who campaigned on prison reform while quietly selling access to it. Inmates with information were protected. Inmates without it were expendable. The prison wasn't a cage. It was a vault. Marcus Hale felt the vault closing. He made it back to Blackwater before anyone realized he'd slipped away. The fight in C-Block had done its job. Men were injured. Reports were written. The chaos swallowed his absence whole. But that wouldn't last. It never did. Back in his cell, Marcus found a new item waiting on his bunk, a clean set of clothes and a folded note. Midnight. Laundry. Final move. He stared at the words, heart pounding. Pike had believed in final moves. Had believed that if the truth got out, it would matter. Marcus wasn't so sure anymore. Truth didn't survive on its own. It needed someone willing to bleed for it. At 11:57 p.m., the lights flickered. It was subtle, just enough to make seasoned inmates glance up. Marcus slipped into the corridor with the others assigned to late-night detail. The laundry room was hot and loud, machines rattling like loose bones. A guard stood watching Lieutenant Rourke. Rourke didn't look at Marcus as he passed. Instead, he tapped the clipboard twice. A signal. Behind the dryers, concealed by steam and noise, was a service door Marcus had never seen used. Rourke unlocked it and spoke without turning. "Once you walk through," he said, "there's no coming back." Marcus thought of Pike's sister, of the red circle around Ward's face. He stepped through. The room beyond was small and windowless. A table stood at its center, stacked with folders. On the wall hung a flat-screen monitor showing live camera feed from places the prison insisted weren't wired. At the table sat Warden Thomas Kessler. "I was wondering when you'd stop running," Kessler said, folding his hands. "You've always been observant, Marcus. That's why Pike trusted you." Rourke closed the door. "You killed him," Marcus said. Kessler shook his head. "Pike killed himself the moment he thought morality mattered here." "You run the trust," Marcus said. "I manage it," Kessler corrected. "Just like I manage this facility. Order requires incentives." Marcus laughed, a raw sound. "You think this ends with you?" Kessler smiled. "It doesn't end at all." At that exact moment, the monitor flickered. One of the feeds changed not to a prison corridor, but to a diner booth. Detective Ward looked up, eyes sharp, staring straight into the camera. Kessler's smile faltered. Ward had played the only card she had left. She'd leaked just enough information to force a response, baiting the trust into consolidating. When the anonymous caller had panicked, she'd traced the signal back through a compromised contractor one the trust trusted. And when she realized Blackwater's cameras reached farther than advertised, she turned them against their owners. "This is Detective Elena Ward." Her voice echoed through the room, transmitted through hidden speakers. "I am currently broadcasting this feed to Internal Affairs, the State Attorney's Office, and 3 news outlets with scheduled releases." Rourke swore. Kessler lunged for the monitor, but it was too late. Faces flashed on the screen: guards, officials, financial ledgers. Names matched. Dates aligned. The ledger Pike had died for scrolled line by line. "You think exposure stops us?" Kessler snapped. "Men like me don't disappear." Ward's voice didn't waver. "No," she said, "but men like you leave evidence." Alarms blared. Not the chaotic shriek of a riot, but the controlled signal of an external breach. State investigators poured through Blackwater's gates, warrants in hand. The trust hadn't expected speed. Hadn't expected someone to burn the whole structure instead of negotiating a piece of it. Rourke stepped back, raising his hands. "I tried to slow it down," he said to Marcus. "That's all I could do." Kessler was arrested in the laundry room, his authority stripped in seconds. As he was led away, he leaned toward Marcus. "This place will outlive you," he whispered. "It always does." In the weeks that followed, Blackwater changed on paper. Officials resigned. Guards were charged. Hearings were held. Marcus Hale was placed in protective custody, then quietly transferred. Detective Ward became the face of a scandal that rattled 3 states. And yet, 3 months later, Ward stood outside a different facility, watching another transport van roll through another set of gates. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Inmate found dead during routine count. No signs of struggle. The name wasn't familiar, but the details were. Clean, efficient, silent. Ward closed her eyes. Some prisons weren't buildings. They were ideas, and ideas didn't need walls to survive. Far away, Marcus Hale read the news from his new cell. He folded the paper carefully, slipping it beneath his mattress. Outside his door, footsteps passed, unhurried. The trust was wounded, but it wasn't dead. And if this story pulled you into the darkness, remember there are more doors behind these walls. Stay close. You won't want to miss what's waiting on the other side.